right, we're live. Trying to fix my light here. It's really dim for some reason. Oh goodness. So yes, tonight we are doing a wrap up of Tampa and of Pacific USA. Yes, woo woo for Devin. Yes, all of this BSPN stuff. So which one do you guys want to do first? You guys tell me. Do you want to do Pacific USA or do you want to do Tampa first? Because we have both. And pictures just came up for Pacific USA, so we can talk about that too. And of course, if you want to work with me, suitsandposing.com is where you got to go. We do hair, makeup, suits, and posing. We did Devin's hair and makeup and suit, and we've helped her with her posing throughout this year for her Olympia qualification this weekend. Tampa first? Do you want to do Tampa first? Tampa first? We're going to do both. Just let me know which one you want to do first. I'm hearing all the Tampas. And so we'll go ahead and do Tampa first. Let me pull up a new window. I'll keep that one up and pull up a new one. Tampa. Since Devin's here, we'll start with Wellness. We're just going to basically go through the top 4 for Tampa Pro Wellness, because that's what they did for the first call out. And of course, I was there in person for this, so I'm going to pull the pictures up as well. We can talk about it as we go through the pictures too, but we'll talk about what I saw in person. Feel free to ask questions and stuff as we go along too. So we're going to start with 4th and work our way up. So 4th was Kanea Yancey. Now she has crossed over from figure, and I believe she's bikini too. This is the first division where I feel like she's actually in the division she belongs in, that kind of thing. Beautiful look overall, really beautiful look. Has a great balance and shape for this particular division. She was just a little bit watery. It was, and this is what I heard, I don't really know, but I heard that she may have missed her peak, that kind of thing going into the show. She's just a little bit too thick. Needs to work on that conditioning. She also mentioned that she does have really thick skin and it's hard for her to get it. So it's really that paper thin skin lean. If she can get down another, I don't know how tall she is, another 5 pounds or something like that to really pull that conditioning in, so we see it specifically in that lower body, that she could definitely get a qualification here for Olympia. She just needs to pull it down a little bit more because her shape is there. Let me see, I'm gonna pull through, because even with the fact that she's a little bit not conditioned enough, she's still tight through the waistline. You know, she's still got that tightness through the waistline. Now, a lot of these photos look very red in color. That was in general. That was the lighting, that was the tanning at this particular show. So, in general, we'd like to see everyone be a little bit deeper in color than this reddish color, but that's just the lighting that we had to work with. When you see them in person, they didn't look quite this red, but the lighting on the stage and combined with the tanning did make everybody look a little bit on the reddish side. She looks very red here, which makes the suit look like it's blending into her skin tone, but in person it didn't look like that. It does look like that in the pictures, but it didn't look like that in person. She actually popped quite a bit in person. I'm looking through her. I want to get to a good back shot here. And she's very polished with her hair and makeup. All of that looked really, really nice. Posing was nice too. Where's her? There's a good back shot. So yeah, just in general, she just needs to bring it down a few more pounds just so that she can really get that conditioning to come in. She might want to do a little bit bigger on the hair just to cover up her back a little bit as well. She does have upper body. You know, she did do figure, all of that too. So she's got some width in the back. She's doing a good job of squeezing it, but maybe doing a little bit, you know, of curls or something like that in the back with her hair. That would help to hide some of that width a little bit better as well, and better accentuate her lower half. That is one thing I'll say, is that there were several shots here where I was like, well, she looks still like a figure competitor because she's got some width in her back. So she just needs to balance that a little bit. Balance the posing a little bit, maybe get some curls through the hair to make it a little bit fuller and hide that back a little bit more, and just bring that conditioning in a little bit more. And I think that would be a really good, her best kind of look here. But good look for her here. This is the best she's done so far this year, getting her some Olympia points there as well. First call, it was top 4. First call, it was four girls, because the lineup was only 11 deep. So they did 4 girls in the top call out. Barbara. So Barbara is a beautiful girl. Beautiful. The first thing that I noticed is she had way too much glaze on. The glaze actually made her look a lot softer than she was. She does need to still be a little bit more conditioned. She was a little bit soft as well. However, all of that extra glaze on her did not do her any favors. It made her look really, really soft. You have to be careful when you're putting glaze on backstage, you know, when you're getting ready to go on stage. Too much glaze can have a negative effect where it can make you look softer, and that's what it did to her. But overall, she's got a tiny waistline, which is great. She needs that beautiful face, beautiful look. Tan was on point, but she needs to come down a little bit more in the lower half, and she's just not conditioned enough. And I'm going to bring her around to the back pose here so I can take a look at her back pose. And yeah, honestly, like, she just needs to bring that lower half in a little bit tighter, and she could be easily qualify, because again, stunning look. And again, in these pictures, she looks a little bit like the suit's blending, but in person, it didn't look like that. It didn't look like that at all. And yeah, she just needs to go easy on that glaze. We said that about Renee Jewett at Chicago Pro as well. She went overboard with the glaze on her glutes, made her glutes look soft. So the same kind of situation here. The glaze is just way too much on her in this particular show. So her tan's good though, just needs to be less glazed. And overall just needs to be a little bit more conditioned. But again, beautiful look. Beautiful, beautiful look. Let's see. Let's go to second, which is Miss Devin, who's here with us, and one of our cuties here. So gorgeous look on Devin. This was the tightest that she's ever been, which she needed in order to make her physique pop. Now, I wanted to talk about that a little bit because people are always concerned about wellness being too tight or too conditioned, this kind of thing, that kind of thing. You have to understand, and I mentioned this in one of my stories yesterday, that you have to build your body and show your body how it shows best, not necessarily how somebody else shows best. Devin is a small girl, you know, 5'1", I think. I can't remember how tall she is. 5'1". Devin, if you're still on here, tell me how tall you are. I can't remember how tall you are. But she's a small girl. So in order for her to look like she's got curves in the right places, she has to be really conditioned so that that waistline comes in nice and tight. On somebody else, this kind of conditioning right here may be too much. But on Devin, she needs that in order for her body to pop correctly. I personally had Devin in first. 5 foot. See, there you go. She's 5 foot tall. She's a small girl. So again, when you're tiny like that, you need to get that conditioning in so your curves really show, right? It's hard to make that waistline come in when you're 5 foot tall. So she needs that conditioning in order for her curves to pop correctly. Now, again, on somebody else, this conditioning might be too much, but on her, she needs it, right? And this was the tightest that she's ever looked. Also, her presentation was the best presentation on that stage, hands down, hands down. Like when she started walking to the back, I mean, in my opinion, it was over at that point. I had her in first because of that walk to the back. Her posing was incredibly polished. Her overall presentation was incredibly polished. Tan was really nice. All of that was right on. It was spot on. This was her best look. I think Ashlyn said the same thing at some point. She needs to be really conditioned. Yeah, it makes sense because Ashlyn, again, is another one. She's 5 foot tall. She needs to be teeny tiny, tight because she's so teeny tiny. Makes sense? So this is why you can't get caught up in the whole comparisons thing sometimes, because just because it looks good on somebody else's body doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look good on yours, right? So in some worlds, she may be too conditioned. In her world, this is perfect. And they actually came up to her, the judges came up to her after the show and said, this is right on. This is right where you need to be. Don't change a thing. That's what they told her. So really, really, really nice look here. Really well put together. And again, very polished, which is very important in my opinion. And again, I thought that her presentation, again, I might be a little bit biased. But her presentation was the best on stage. It just was. Same for me. So yeah, Shanika, same thing. Teeny tiny girl. You need to be really tight in order for those curves to pop, right? Somebody like me, if I did that, I'd look like a string bean because I'm 5'9", completely different, right? You gotta know what works best for your frame, right? So yeah, really, really happy with this look for her. And a lot of you guys didn't realize this, even she didn't realize this. So because she qualified for the Olympia while wearing our suit, she now earns that Pro Performer Promise sponsorship. So she now is sponsored by us and she will be for the lifetime of her career. So she's the very first cutie to ever do this as a pro. Most of our girls that qualify for this sponsorship do it as amateurs. She's the first one to do it as a pro. So congratulations to Devin on that too. That's pretty significant as well. So she's our first cutie Pro Performer Promise giveaway winner as a pro. She's also going to be in the very first Wellness Olympia, which is freaking awesome. So excited about that. Can't wait to help to design for her for that particular show. That's gonna be pretty freaking awesome. Can't wait. Can't wait. So, yay for Devin. And I love the fact that I got to be there for it too. That always makes it even extra special, you know? Let's move on to Renee, who did win this. Now, Renee placed 3rd in Chicago. Honored, yes, we are honored to have you. Just setting the standard, absolutely, absolutely, yes. All the congratulations, I love it. So Renee was 3rd in Chicago. Yay for Devin. See, Jazzy's on here too. Look at that. Our 2 Olympia qualified athletes, they're on right now. We had a really, really live FaceTime call on Saturday night. Let's just say that. So, on to Renee. So Renee did win this. She was 3rd in Chicago, so she just missed qualifying for the Olympia while she was in Chicago. So she bumped up and won this show. Now, that was the other thing too, going back to Devin again for just a second. In Chicago, Devin, I believe, was 9th. And she was softer there. So she got her feedback while she was there, and they told her she needed to tighten up, and she did. And she jumped from 9th place all the way up into 2nd and got the Olympia qualification. That's significant, you guys. We're going to go into this when we go into Tampa too. Or Bikini too. You have to apply judging feedback. It's not just about getting the judging feedback, it's about applying it. They pay attention. They pay attention to if you were listening to them or not. And Devin did. She listened. But back to Renee. So Renee has a beautiful look. Now, the one thing I'll say too is that I was critical of her suit color at the last show, Chicago, because her tan wasn't dark enough. Her tan was dark enough here, but her tan was very splotchy. Let me see if you can see that in her back shots, specifically at finals. At finals, it was really, really splotchy in the back. Let me see if you can actually see that or not in the pictures. Yeah, you can see it in the pictures. You can see in the pictures how splotchy it is. So that was a big negative, I felt. Now, overall, her balance was very nice. She wasn't too big. She wasn't too conditioned. She was right down the middle. She's a gorgeous girl, like in the face, beautiful face. So she has a very beautiful look. And I did like her suit color here because the tan was better. The tan was darker. Now, again, it wasn't my favorite when she was in Chicago because the tan was not dark enough. But look, she picked that up here. Now, I see some things she's going to need to work on going into the Olympia. She's going to need to fill her glutes out a little bit because we're seeing a little bit of skin hanging there. So she's going to have to fill those glutes out quite a bit for Olympia in order to be able to hang with top 10 girls. But again, beautiful look here. Let me see. She needs some work on her walk too. Like I said, Devin had the best walk on that stage. Devin had the best walk. She's got to get some work done on her walk, work on her presentation. I think one of the biggest things Renee's going to need to work on going into the Olympia is going to be her presentation. It's going to be her posing. Because overall, great shape, great look. She just needs to come out with some more confidence. I felt like she didn't have quite the confidence that Devin had. So she just needs to get a little bit more solid in the posing routine and in the pose and in the comparisons, specifically the walk to the back. Ladies, if you're not practicing that walk to the back, you are really doing yourself a disservice. Everybody needs to practice that walk to the back. It was very obvious in this particular pro show who practiced that and who didn't. So please practice your walk to the back in every category that has to do it, which would be wellness and bikini. Make sure you're doing it. Make sure you're doing it. It really makes a huge difference, and it can make the difference between qualifying and not qualifying for the Olympia. Okay, so that would be my critique for her. But again, beautiful look. I'm trying to look at her various pictures here. Again, stunning on stage, so it draws your eye to her. In general, these top 4 girls had beautiful looks on stage. That's important. It's important that each looked very gorgeous, like polished, put together, beautiful hair, beautiful makeup, beautiful tan, all of those things. That makes a difference, you guys. It makes a difference. All 4 of these girls in the top 4, they had that. They had that. Okay, so that is wellness. Any questions on wellness before we go into bikini at Tampa? Give you a minute. Let's go into Tampa then. And I'm just going to touch on 6th place and move my way up from there. So the girls that I thought were going to be in the top 5 ended up in the top 5, but a completely different order. than what I initially predicted, and I could not be happier about that. So first thing I want to shout out though is sixth place, which is Danielle Combs. This is only her second pro show ever. She made her pro debut at Battle of the Bodies, did well there too. She was top call out there, and then she came in and did top call out here. Very deep skin tone with a really bright pink suit, which I love that. You guys know that. I love when girls have really the deeper skin tones. They go with those bright pops of color. This looked phenomenal on her. Great poise, great presence, great posing, all the way around, a really beautiful look. Could have been a little bit tighter, I think, specifically through the waistline. Let me see, I'm looking at her front pose here. Front pose is right on. She just needs to be a touch tighter. Let me look at her back shot here. Yeah, just a touch, and by touch I mean a touch, just a touch, because she's nice and round and full, but I'd like to see her come in just like maybe another pound tighter, just maybe another pound. That's about it. That would really help her to pull those hamstrings in a little bit more. That would help to bring that lower back and that waistline in just a little bit more, and then pop and fill that out. So it's a very, very small, minor adjustment there, because she's got really good balance and she's got really good pop to her muscles. So again, I'd like to see just a touch tighter. But other than that, I wouldn't change much of anything else. This is a phenomenal start to a pro career. Phenomenal, coming in and placing top 6 here. So really, really good job on all that. And I'm not seeing any problems with her posing or anything like that either. Her posing looks great. All right, let's move on to 5th, which was Francesca Stocchio, which I assumed this is about where she would land. Thanks, yes, we were told to come in slightly tighter. See, look at that. Do I know my stuff or what? Well, good. I'm glad that I'm on the same level as, or same thought process as the judges. That's always good to hear. So, yeah, and like I said, that's about all I would do. That's about it. Everything else looks great. So just a touch tighter, and you're gonna be up in that top 5 real quick. Okay, so let's move on to Francesca. So this is about where I thought Francesca would land. She is a little bit harder, a little bit more muscular, and has a little bit less fullness to her glutes than the rest of the girls in the top 5. And that's just how she's built. Again, she has that crazy V taper into her waistline. And that's where my eye always goes, which is kind of a problem when you're in bikini. Like, you don't want one thing to stick out over everything else, and that's what I always go to. She's a little bit bigger through the shoulders than the rest of the girls, and a little bit smaller in the fullness of the glutes. So she's still got a beautiful look, don't get me wrong, but there's just some balance issues there. She's got to pull some fullness up into those glutes. She is Olympia qualified, so hopefully she'll get off stage at this point. I think she probably wanted to come into this show and just kind of see how she stacked up next to the top 5 Olympian girls that were in this show, which makes complete sense. But if I was her, I would get off stage and start really work on filling out those glutes between now and Olympia to see if she can pull her way up, because that would help to balance her frame out quite a bit. There's no posing issues here. She had some funky stuff going on with her arms and her back pose in Mexico, the last show she just did, and she's not doing that here. So she did fix that. But she just needs to work on some balance. She needs to get those glutes to pop just as much as her upper body. Let me look and see if there's anything else. I think her front pose was pretty much on. Let me see. She's had some issues with her front. Yeah, front pose is pretty much on. Yep, and she's posing really straight on, and the reason why she's doing that is because she has such a crazy V taper. And if she poses too much to the side, that's what we look at. So she has adjusted her posing to bring that down. And it's definitely the right adjustment for sure. So she's the opposite of Laura Lee. Basically, yes, she's the opposite of Laura Lee. Yep. Bikini is all about balance, you guys. All about balance. So you got to remember that. It's one thing to have an amazing V taper. It's another thing to have amazing shoulders. It's another thing to have amazing glutes or whatever. But they all have to flow together in a complete package. So you've got to make that balance work. That's what she's got to work on. She's got to work on balancing her lower body with her upper body. But again, this is an improved look. I think this is an improved look over Mexico, where she did actually win that show and qualify. So now, like I said, I would work on filling out the glutes going into the Olympia, so she can place a little bit better at the Olympia this year. Let's go to 4th place, which is Laura Lee, and this was the shock of the whole show. Everybody, I had her in 2nd personally going into the show as a preview. Most everybody else had her winning. But she's just too big, and she was soft. Laura Lee is a gorgeous girl. and she has a phenomenal frame. She has genetics that are ridiculous. Like, people would die for her genetics. Like, I have talked about this before. I wish I could grow glutes like her. But she's not conditioned enough. She was soft. She needs to be leaner. And her glutes just stand out too much. They're just too big. So you guys have to remember that when we're talking about bikini, it needs to be a look that somebody like you watching this live stream with me right now, who's brand new to the sport, looks at that look and says, I can look like that. I want to do that, right? Laura Lee is a freak of nature. And you guys know whenever I say freak of nature, I mean it in a flattering sense. She is a genetic phenom. And when you look at somebody like her, you say, I can't do that. I can't look like that. She's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. She's phenomenal. But there has to be a balance. There has to be a realistic balance to it. She's also tall at 5'8". Right, she is. She's 5'8". So, you know, you have to be able to see yourself in that girl's shoes, right? So in order for Laura Lee to be competitive and to potentially win the Olympia, she does need to come in more conditioned. She needs to be tighter. And she does need to bring her size down, specifically in her glutes. Now, everybody was like, how did she win Chicago and then not get even top 2 here at Tampa? Okay. Issa kind of is also, I love her, but I don't think I can look like that. We'll get to Issa in a minute. So the difference between the two shows is a few things. A, the competitors were different. So that's always going to, the placings are always going to change regardless of any of other things going on if the competitor lists are different. The top 4 at this show were very competitive, okay? So you're up against girls that were in the top 5 at the Olympia last year, right? You're up against girls that you were in that first call out with last year. Different, okay? Also, she was given feedback in Chicago that she needed to downsize. She needed to take some muscle off. She needed to come in tighter. And she didn't do that here. So what happens is that the head judge sees that and says, well, you didn't do what I told you to do, so we're going to dock you. Okay? I told you I was going to bring this back in about Devin. Devin did the opposite, right? Devin was told to come in tighter. She did. She got rewarded. Laura Lee was told to bring the muscularity down and come in tighter. She didn't. She ended up in 4th, right? Now, even beyond that, her body deserved 4th place. Her body deserved 4th place. In this lineup, her body deserved 4th place. Okay? So, you know, there was a lot of like hubbub and things like that out there. No. She deserved where she was. She deserved her placing. Can she do better than this? Absolutely. 100% she can do better than this. So going into the Olympia, she's got some choices to make. You know, she's got to bring that size down a little bit, and she's got to bring that conditioning in tighter. That's it. She got to do it. And those are the things she's going to have to do in order to be up in that top 5, top 2 spots at the Olympia where she wants to be, where she's been before, right? So this was an appropriate placing for her. Plus, I just didn't feel her presence, her stage presence, was as confident as it was in Chicago. And maybe because she knew that she needed to downsize. Maybe she knew those things. Maybe she knew because of her feedback that she'd had before that she needed to bring a different package and she wasn't quite there yet. Maybe that's why her confidence wasn't quite there. But I felt like her confidence was way better when she was in Chicago than she was here in Tampa. She didn't wow me like she did when she stepped on stage in Chicago, right? Seeing it in person, the judging was perfectly done, and it's so hard to get the live stream for people to see what we saw. Oh, absolutely. It's 100% different when you're in person versus anything else. It absolutely is. That's why I say, whenever I do my live feeds and stuff like that, I tell you guys, like, if I wasn't there in person, you have to put an asterisk next to everything that I'm saying because I only see pictures and videos. You know what I mean? I was there in person, and Laura Lee deserved this placing. Now, I will give Laura Lee this, too. When she came in to finals, she was tighter. She was tighter at finals than she was at prejudging. But so was Jennifer Dory, which we're going to get into next. The only one that seemed to have the true confidence was Raja. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we're going to talk about that with Raja, too. We're going to talk about that when we get to her. She did. So, let's see. Not even close. She looked beautiful, but she did not on the stage like in Chicago. Correct. 100% Giovanna. Yep, I feel like Laura Lee, who's absolutely gorgeous, was hyped up so much by her coach. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about now that we're going to get into Jen Dory, right? So 3rd place was Jen. So we're going to talk about both of these girls in this particular situation. Jen Dory also was a little soft. the live stream froze during comparisons. It kept cutting out. Oh, that's too bad. But yeah, Jen was the same way. Jen was underwhelming at this show. She didn't come out with confidence. She didn't come out and kill it. She also was another one that was too soft. And I really believe what happened with both Jen and Laura Lee is they kind of caved a little bit under pressure. They both had a lot of pressure going into this show. You know, Jen won this show last year, and she came in second at the Olympia. So now everybody's talking about Jennifer Dory being the next Miss Bikini Olympia because Janet's no longer competing. You know what I mean? So automatically everybody's thinking about second place, which was Jennifer Dory. So you come into something like this with a ton of pressure on you, and that can affect you, especially when it's your first show of the year and you haven't competed since October. You know what I mean? Like that's hard. That's hard pressure. So I believe that's what affected both of these girls when it came to their actual presence on stage. They had all of that pressure on them when they walked on stage, right? Diraja hit the stage with the bold confidence of a woman with nothing to lose. Yep, we're gonna get into that. We sure are. Yes. Oh no, it didn't freeze for me. I didn't have a screen recording. If you found it, why is Janet not competing? I didn't know. No one had more pressure than Issa, and we're gonna get into Issa too. Absolutely. But yeah, and I don't believe that Issa had as much pressure. We'll get into that when we talk about Issa too, but I don't believe Issa had more pressure. I don't. Some do better than others under pressure. They sure do. That's right. So in general with Jennifer, I wasn't amazed. I wasn't wowed. I want to see a wow factor from her, and she's going to need to bring her lower half in a little bit tighter more than anything else in order to get her body to really pop. She was another one that when she came back for finals, she was tighter. She was tighter at finals than she was at prejudging. So I feel like that was the general consensus between her and Laura Lee, right? And you have to also remember with Jennifer, people forget this. She's only won one pro show. She won Tampa Pro last year, and that was it. So all of a sudden now she's in the conversation all the time. People put a ton of pressure on her in order to perform. And in reality, she's only ever actually won one pro show. And when you talk to Jen, you can tell she does not believe the hype about herself, if that makes sense. And I mean that in a good way. She's working hard. She's working very hard in order to bring a good package. And I think people overhype her. And not saying that she can't be the next Miss Bikini Olympia. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I think she's getting a lot of unnecessary pressure. I think that she's a phenomenal athlete, and I think that she deserves to be up there. But I think also she's got to put her head down and work just like everyone else. I think she is. I think she is doing that. So I almost want people to be like kind of lay off both these girls a little bit. Like give them a chance to be great. You know what I mean? Like that's my thought process. I'm like, just let these girls do their job. You know what I mean? Let them do what they came to do. Let them grow and let them evolve in the sport. And I feel like the unneeded pressure needs to stop for both of them. For both her and Laura Lee is what I mean, because I think they both can be very, very good, and they are very, very good. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like people need to let them be great. let them find their greatness, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but that's what I feel. I kind of want to go up and give them both hugs and say like it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? I think Diraja was motivated because most people are coming in 4th or 5th. Diraja wanted to see how she'd stack up, and she found out she stacked. Yeah, so we're going to get into Diraja next. So this is the opposite side of that coin that we're about to talk about, is Diraja. So, you know, I had Diraja potentially in 3rd. I put her in my 3rd place position. I put her right behind Jen Dory and Laura Lee. I put her in that 3rd place spot. Diraja came into this show with nothing to lose. Diraja came into the show with nothing to lose, right? I feel like with Laura Lee, her coach started so much hype that the pressure became too great. I would agree with that. Jen did look soft. Her frame is a lot more balanced, and she seems to only do big shows, or she can build up her confidence by going to smaller shows and collecting trophies. LOL, I know, right? Jen just needs to get a little more stage time, I think, and get comfortable again. It's hard. That first show was always hard to come back to, and it's hard to nail it every time. You know what I mean? And I don't like that she's expected to nail it every time, if that makes sense, because nobody else expects that. Nobody else expects them to nail it first time out. You have to work through some stuff, you know? I agree about Laura Lee. Your coach hyped her so much. Yeah, I agree as well. So going into Diraja again, like she came into the show with nothing to lose, right? DeRaja's already qualified for the Olympia. She doesn't need a qualification. That's not what she's looking for. She wanted to see how she would stack up next to top 5 Olympians. That was her goal. So she came in like, all right, bitches, I'm here. You know what I mean? And she, I agree, was the only one that owned the stage. The only one, Issa included. She was the only one that owned the stage in her presence. It was just like, bam, I'm here when it comes to DeRaja. Like, hands down. Hands down. And for that reason alone, I personally had her in first because of her stage presence. I had her in first, sitting there watching prejudging. I definitely think her and Paul played this season smart. They sure did. They absolutely did. They played this very, very smart. And now she's in the conversation. She's in the conversation, not only just for a potential top 5, but she's in the conversation for a potential win at the Olympia. She's in the conversation. That's what they wanted, you know? All right, bitches, I'm here. It's legit the best way to explain her presence on stage. It was 100%. And, you know, when it comes to her overall flow for physique, I think it's right on. I personally had her in first. The stage was hers. It sure was. From the front, the one thing I can say is that she can bring her waistline in tighter. I think her upper body's balanced with lower. I think she's right on with that, but her waistline can be tighter. And this is where I think being next to Issa did her in, as far as not winning versus coming in second, right? Her posing routine was so good. It was so different. She looked so confident and flowed so well. She sure did. So this, and I spoke to judges after the show too, because I wanted to get their input. From the back, I do believe that, that Issa was the winner from the back on the glutes, but DeRaja was real close. I think DeRaja needs to fill out a little bit more, just a little bit, just pop it just a touch. But she's pretty damn close. The only thing I would have really changed on her is just brought the waistline in a little bit tighter on the waistline. And the main reason why is because she's fine by herself, but when you get next to Issa's waistline doesn't exist. You know what I mean? It's just gone. So she killed it. She sure did. She absolutely killed it. So after talking to judges, that was the consensus. The consensus was that Issa won it from the back. And when you got them turned to the front, I think DeRaja is actually better balanced than Issa from the front, but Issa's waistline is so small, it's very hard to compete with that. It's very, very hard to compete with that waistline. So let me pull up Issa's pictures here. This was definitely an improved Issa over the Olympia. And this is why I don't think she had a lot of pressure, because people weren't expecting her to perform. People were expecting her to be outside looking in at Lauralee and at Jen. That's what they were expecting. I was expecting that. I was expecting her to be on the outside looking in. So I don't think she had as much pressure as Lauralee and Jen did. So she came in, she had to prove that she still belonged in that winner's circle, right? Issa has some crazy genetics too. She does, yes. I said the same thing. If her waist was as tight as Issa's, she would have won. So I still don't think she would have won because of the glutes, because Issa's glutes were on. But from the front, that was the main factor from the front. And again, the reason why I had DeRaja winning is because of her overall stage presence. It was because of her overall stage presence. When you break down the physiques, I understand why Issa won it. I get it. When you turn to the back, I'm trying to get to a back shot of Issa. Let's see, there she is. When you turn this to the back, if you're looking at the pictures, I mean, you can see the difference in the pop of Issa's glutes versus the pop of DeRaja's. That's where it was really kind of won and lost, and then the waistline from the front. DeRaja was also compared better to Issa than Jen or Lauralee. Absolutely. And that's the thing. So DeRaja and Issa were both in very good shape. They were not soft. Jen and Lauralee were both soft, right? So these two were not, those two were. That's where you got the first and second, third and fourth. It was really easy. They're live, watching it live, why it played out the way it did. Judges are never going to reward somebody that looks like they're not in shape. And I honestly think Jen Dory was in shape, but I think that pressure, those nerves is what got to her. So I don't know what show she's doing next. I've heard Texas and things like that. So I'm hoping that she was able to work the nerves out at this show And if she got the nerves worked out now, then she should be fine going forward. That's what I think with that. And then, like I said, with Laura Lee, she's going to have to make some decisions as far as what direction she wants to take her physique, you know? So at this point, she does need to downsize. She does need to downsize. So yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, this was a shock for the show. However, I loved how this played out. I loved how this played out because what it did is it left the Olympia top 5 wide open. Wide open. There is no favorites going to that top 5 now. None. 0. Everyone has been beaten. Everyone. So it's not going to automatically be pushed over to somebody. Whoever comes in the best of the Olympia is going to win it. There is nothing better for the Olympia than that. That's why I loved how these results went down. And it was completely fair. The placings were completely right. It was great. It was great for the sport. Great for the sport. So, only Miss O to not crack the top 5 the following year. Many, included yourself, had her as far as 5th place. She didn't win this show. She would have definitely be written off for the O. That's why I say she had more pressure than anyone in the top lineup. She was already written off for the O, though. That's the difference. She was already written off for the O. Everybody had already written her off. She wasn't even in the conversation. She wasn't even in the conversation. Everybody thought she was done. Right? Now she's going to have pressure. Now Issa's going to have pressure, but she didn't before. She didn't before. She's already qualified for the Olympia, so she doesn't have to worry about that. She was just trying to get into the conversation again, just like Deraja. Deraja came into the show just trying to get into the conversation. That's why the both of them shined. Because they didn't come in needing to win. They didn't need to win this show. Right? They didn't need to win this show. They came in wanting to be a part of the conversation again, so the pressure's off. Right? The pressure's off. Pressure was on the other 2 girls. I hate the favorite thing. Literally everyone this season has been beat, including Ashley Kay and other top Olympians. It's going to be an insane bikini Olympia. It sure is. And a lot can happen in 2 months. A lot can happen in 2 months. So just because Laura Lee was too big here at this show doesn't mean she's going to be too big once the Olympia gets here. We got the Arnold still too. The Arnold is next month. Right? Speaking of, let's flip over to Pacific USA. Because we've been talking a long time. But this was a good show. This was a good show. Thank you guys for being on. I appreciate it. I love getting all the input and everything too. This is a good conversation. So let's flip over to Pacific USA because obviously our girl Jasmine won Pacific USA. This is her first pro win. This is actually her first win ever, other than she won a class once in the NPC. So this is a tip. She didn't win the overall. So this is actually the first overall that Jasmine has ever won. So it was pretty freaking special, pretty freaking phenomenal. And I was super blessed to have Devin and all of the other cuties that were there in the lobby of the hotel. We're all watching it on my phone, bawling our damn eyes out. So I wish I could have been there at the show. But I also said this, San Diego is where Jasmine lives. Her whole family's there, all of that too. So they were all there and they were able to witness this with her, which I don't think it could have gone anything. I don't think she could have asked for anything better. So I was super, super happy about that. We were all like I said, we were all bawling our eyes out, all of that. But I was just really happy that we were all together. I was really happy we were all together. That was really special. So it was a really phenomenal way for the weekend to end out. Because Tampa Pro was already done at that point when she actually won this show. So best moment ever. Absolutely, Devin. We got all these crying and yes, Jazzies and yay, Jazzy. Jennifer still has to qualify. She does. She's got points, but she still has to qualify. She hasn't won a show. I can't wait. How's the Arnold next month? I know, right? So yeah, it was an emotional day. An emotional weekend all the way around. I'm ecstatic for Jazzy. She deserved this, especially under new direction. Yeah. And that's the fun part too, is that both Jasmine and Devin, who qualified this weekend, both have new coaches. Funny how that works, huh? Isn't that funny? We're gonna leave that there. So we're going to go to the top 4 of this show as well, because they did top 4 in that first call out really for the comparisons and all of that. I also love how Muscle Contest does their comparisons and call outs. As a fan and as somebody watching the actual live stream, it was driving me nuts because they moved everyone everywhere, and I was like, no, stop it. I was like, please stop. But as an athlete, you know you're actually being really judged from every angle, right? She's been busting her ass all season. Love to see it. Yes. Thank you, ladies. Yes. LOL. Yeah, I'm gonna put my little halo on right now. Teach, pinkies up. Love it. Anyway, okay, we're gonna stop. So, we're gonna do 4th through 1st in this particular show, because they did just get the pictures out too, like right before this live feed. So I had a chance to go through them really quickly. Ivana took 4th. She did a new suit this show, which I think was a pretty suit. However, I don't think it fit her quite correctly, because when you look at her front pose, it's actually pushing down on her skin in that front pose on the hip strap. All the T's going up. I love it. But it's pulling down on her skin there, and she's got some skin rolls. So I don't know if maybe she just needed to pull the suit strap down a little bit, so I didn't do that. But that's the first thing my eye went to when I was looking at these photos. She's one that we have talked about needs to soften up a little bit, which it looks like she did do that. She filled out a little bit here, which played well for her, I think. But let me see. Let me turn her to the back here. Let me find a back shot here. Yeah, from the back she looks good. So this is probably one of the better looks I've seen from her all season. She's not too hard. She is full. I think she could probably pop a little bit more in the glutes. Waistline needs to come in a little tighter now that she's filling out. That's the hard part. When you're filling out, you've got to make sure that waistline stays nice and small. And honestly, I think that's more of a posing thing than it is anything else. I'd like to see her hand come down a little bit on her waistline. I don't like the position of her hand that's on her waistline in her front pose. I think that's just distorting her frame a little. So if she was to bring her hand down a little, point her fingers inward, I think that would really help with the illusion right there. But overall, I do think this is a better package for her. And in this scenario, I will say I liked the blue suit better on her than this red one. I don't like the hip strap on her here. And for some reason, I just felt like the blue popped off of her a little bit. Now, it could just be the lighting of this show, too. It could be the lighting. But I felt like the blue popped off of her a little bit better than this red. Now, in person, it could have been different, just like I was talking about with Tampa. The Tampa in person looked completely different than the photos. So it could have been different in person. But I'm just not really feeling this suit on her. I liked the blue one better on her. But overall, like I said, I think her look itself is better here. Super cute girl, too. Let's see. We're going to go to 3rd, which is Carolina. So Carolina is consistently up in that top 5. I was talking with her today. Again, critique is just has to fill out a little bit more. She fixed her back pose quite a bit here, which looks really a lot better. We've talked about that before. She brought her elbows in and down a little on that back pose. Front pose is looking a little better too. Tan probably could be a little bit darker, but again, it could just be the lighting. That was the one thing I noticed when I was looking through these photos, that she looked quite light in comparison to everybody else. So maybe a little bit darker on the tan. And just really continuing to bring that fullness. You know, she's a tiny girl, so she's just got to keep filling out. But this looks really good. This is a good full package for her. So it's not like anything's really lacking here. And I'm looking at the back shot. This is probably the best back shot I've seen from her all year, which is great. At this point, she's got more points, so we think she's about safe on the point zone, but we never know until all the points are actually distributed. And as we can see, things do actually change up pretty quickly sometimes. Just like this weekend at Tampa, completely flip-flopped what we thought it was going to do. So, you know, whenever you're on that cusp of the points and stuff, you got to be always ready just in case. But I think she's probably qualified at this point for the Olympia. We gotta pay attention to a few more shows and just see what happens with those points. But I think this was a very good look for her. Overall, I think this was a very good look for her. Probably the fullest I've seen. Probably the fullest. And again, I like that back shot much better. So good look there. I actually, just from watching the live streams, I had her in 2nd, not 3rd. But, you know, again, I was watching a live stream. I wasn't there in person, so... let's see, going to 2nd, which is Vanya. So Vanya, again, has been on that cusp. Another one on that cusp. Looking at her, these pictures are really dark. When you have the darker skin tone and the pictures are dark, it's hard for me to really see what's going on, but I think her lower half looks pretty good. She looks pretty tight, needs to be tighter through the hamstrings. That's a consistent thing with her. It needs to be tighter through the hamstrings. Waistline is nice and tight. And I noticed this on the live feed too. This is probably the most downsized I've seen her lower half of her body look, which is good. That's the direction she needs to go. But at the same time, she needs to tighten up those hamstrings to be able to make sure she pops from the back. That's where I think she's lacking in the back, is just that pop. And I'd also like to see her hair, maybe a little bit of a curl under. The ends just look a little jagged, so I'd like to see it look a little bit smoother, a little bit cleaner. She's got a couple crinkles in the upper part of her hair, so maybe just get the curling iron on it on the bottom and just flip the ends under and make it look a little healthier. Suit is great. Love this suit. Much better than when she was at the beginning of the season, which is perfect. Love that. Yeah, and overall I would just fix the hair from the back and just keep working on trying to get those hamstrings to come in a little bit tighter and pop the glutes. This was probably, I'm looking at her front, yeah, her legs look probably the most streamlined I've seen. Looks the most streamlined I've seen so far this year. So again, just little tiny tweaks that she's got to keep making, but she is improving. She's getting better. She was very close. This was a second place finish for her. So she's another one that's moving up that point list. I don't know where she's at right now because I didn't look, but I was just talking to Carolina earlier, so I know where her point standing is. So yeah, so she's probably going to keep competing to stay in that hunt for the points and for the wins too, you know. And then we're going to get to Miss Jasmine. So, as we were saying before, this is her very first pro win, her very first real like overall win, period, which is friggin' phenomenal. Could not have happened any other way. Love this look on her. Love the hair. Love the posing. Obviously the suit, because it's one of mine. Love all of it. But the biggest thing that I saw that was a change for her in this particular show versus past shows is her glutes. Her glutes popped. So this is what we've been talking about with a lot of these girls, things like that. I have always known Jasmine had better glutes than what she was putting on stage. And this is where she needs to go. This is the direction she needs to go with her glutes. This is the best I've ever seen her glutes look on stage, hands down. And I could see it even from the live feed. I was like, as soon as I saw her walk on stage, I was like, oh my God, there's those glutes. I knew they were there. I knew they were there this whole time. There they are. So I was so happy to see that. She was super like popped and full, and she has the tight hamstrings too, so that helped to pop her even more. This is the look that I was looking for. Now, we've talked about her feedback. We know what we need to do going forward in order to make sure that she's competitive at the top levels of the Olympia and the Arnold and things like that too, but this is the right direction for sure. I was so happy to see those glutes pop. So happy. Her hair just brings the whole package alive. I know. I love her hairstyle like this. It is so cute. It is so vibrant, so full of life. And it just shows her beautiful face. You know, that's one of the things that I told her about her natural curls is I love having it up off her face because I want to see her face. I want to see her face. She's got a beautiful face. I want to see it. So this style does it for her, 100%. Yes, Jessie Bates, to the O we go. Yes, I love it. I love it. So she did say that she came in tighter from her feedback. She came in tighter at finals because she ate and drank more throughout the day, which filled her out even more. Which that tells us, you know, that she can handle some food. This girl can eat, you know? So that's a good thing to know too, going into the next few shows. Now she has time to relax a little bit and pull in the physique a little bit tighter going into the Arnolds. And again, like we talked about with the other girls and stuff, there's a lot that can happen in a couple of months, you know? So the goal here is to get her leaner and pop her even more, make those glutes undeniable on that Arnold stage first and then Olympia stage as well. You know, Jasmine always has a phenomenal presentation and posing and presence, and that was all there for her this particular show too, you know, so it just finally came together. I really think the last piece for her was popping those glutes, and that's what got her the win here. She's been so close so many times. She's been so consistently in those top 5 positions and just could never get over that hump. There were several times where she was winning at prejudging and then she would lose at finals because her glutes would just deflate throughout the day. Here, she had the opposite thing happen because she ate and drank throughout the day and they popped even more by the time she got to finals. So could not be more happier for her than I am today. Like, well, than I was that night. I am today too, but whatever, you know what I mean. So I'm looking forward to seeing the changes that she's going to make to her physique now that she is under new coaching guidance. Same thing with Devin. Devin is under new coaching guidance as well going into the Olympia. So I see this as just a brand new start, brand new beginning, and it's only up from here. You know what I mean? So this was a phenomenal weekend, specifically for our ladies. It was a phenomenal weekend for them. Couldn't have asked for much better results, to be perfectly honest with you. So I was beaming from ear to ear all weekend long. Yes, to the mother freaking Arnold and then the Olympia. I know, right? For real. So, I mentioned that at our preview. I said, wouldn't it be great if we had a cutie sweep and we got Olympia qualifications at both shows? And look what we did. I got you, ladies. I love it. It was so phenomenal. And like I said, it's just like, it's coming for full circle and it's just up from here. So, any other questions? That's our wrap up for these shows this weekend. Let's go. If I let it go any longer, I'm going to lose the whole live feed. So this was the long one, but thank you guys for all of your input and questions and commentary too. Like I said, that's why I love doing this live with you guys, because we can have an actual conversation about the whole shows. And it really couldn't have gone much better this weekend for our ladies, and I couldn't be more proud of them, and I could not be more thankful to be able to be part of this journey. You know what I mean? Like, it hits me right here when I see stuff like this happen, and it was a very good weekend, and I felt it right here. I think a lot of you guys did too. I think a lot of you guys felt it right here inside, and when you feel that deep down in your heart, deep down in your gut, you know it's the right thing. You know it's the right thing. So this was a very good weekend. It was a big tea drinking weekend, but it was a good weekend. Wait till we put stuff out for Cuties Coffee the Stage. Did you see some of the shit that we're gonna do for that? Oh my god, we have something with the pinkies up. Just wait. I can't wait to show you guys. I love you too, Devin. I'm so thankful I got to be there for your big moment. That was amazing. So I'm really happy I got to be there and help you with it and just be a part of it for you too. So it was awesome. All right, you guys. And with all of that said, again, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to lose the live feed. If you want to work with me, suitsandposing.com is where you got to go. Again, we won't be on live tomorrow because I'm going to take this video and edit it. And obviously, it's an hour long, so it's going to take me a while to edit it. And we'll be back on Wednesday for live, okay? Have a great night, you guys. Thank you for an amazing weekend and for an amazing live feed. And I'll see you guys back here on Wednesday, okay? Good night.